Okay, we're rolling.
All right. So what are we talking about? Sports cars?
Sports cars and whatever you want, Ren. Johnny Stewart here from John's Guitar Lounge, and I'm here with the one and the only Ren Ferguson, who I'm honored and blessed to be able to call Ren a dear friend. He was a dear friend of my dad's. But enough about me and about that stuff. I want to talk to you, Ren, about guitar building. Ren is the premier luthier and guitar builder on the planet. And you have to check out his guitars. You have heard his guitars if you've seen my videos, because I play his guitars in my videos. But he's building a bunch of incredible stuff now with his own company. I would just love it if you would just talk about what you do. I don't even want to ask you questions. Nobody wants to hear me. They want to hear from you. Why do you build guitars? How do you do it? Why do you do it the way you do?
Well, first of all, I want to find out which planet.
That would be Earth.
Okay.
Usually I'm probably on Pluto, but right now I'm talking about Earth.
Okay. Well, the reason that I build, I shouldn't say why I build, how I build is because I have the privilege. Not only I have a privilege, but the opportunity to make instruments from the finest materials in the world. I feel a responsibility to turn them into as close to a working piece of functional art as possible. And in the hands of everybody that has a guitar, they're producing art in some form, whether it's for themselves or for their family, or in the case of performing artists, for the rest of us. And I get to work with my children, Timothy and Virginia, and pass on our tradition of the legacy of the Ferguson brand. I've had an incredible opportunity in my life to work with some of the finest manufacturers in the world, and after so many decades, decided it was time to bring it home and work with my kids. Every part of guitar building is fascinating me, from the acquisition of the materials, to the training of other people to do it, to the physical building and creation of the instruments myself. I couldn't have a better career. It's been a real blessing and a real pleasure.
Well, you have said something to me over the years, Ren, several times that has always astounded me, and every time you say it, it still astounds me. And that is that every piece of wood has music in it.
Well, the ones I use do. They don't all have it.
Okay, all your pieces of wood have music in them already.
I mean, you can be very general and say that everything could make music. I'm old, okay? And so I only want to work with stuff that really has music in it. I mean, not just a knock tone, but something that actually resonates with me. I can tell as much by feeling wood anymore as I can by listening to it. So when we make a selection of the materials, we go through a strenuous process of testing, flexing, weighing, doing everything we can to maximize the time that we have with the materials that we have to produce something of lasting quality.
Quality is the key word, I think.
It is.
I mean, truly, there is nothing, and I feel this way, except I want everybody to know, like, not just on my channel, I want everybody in the world to know that you seriously build the finest musical instruments on the planet. They are the finest guitars that I've ever had the pleasure of putting in my hands. And the same was felt by my dad, the best acoustic instruments on the planet. And hands down, no one puts the time into the craft of lutherie that you do.
You're not the only person to say that I'm too slow, that I don't work fast enough.
You know what? It's worth the wait. It is worth the time, Ren, because it is unparalleled quality. And it's not just unparalleled aesthetically and mechanically and from an engineering standpoint, so to speak. It's also just in the quality of the materials you use and the processes that you use to construct the instruments. You talked to me about bracing, which is something nobody ever sees on the guitar, except the bracing the top and bracing the in the back, and how using different types of wood as bracing and using different patterns and all that affect the tonality, and you can get a certain sound out of the materials and out of the finished instrument by using these techniques based on what somebody wants you to build them, right?
I try, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm often successful. Sometimes they're more than I expect, sometimes not quite as much. That's the nature of working with wood. But it begins farther, way back, you know. The woods that I choose to use are generally old growth timbers. But the relationship I have with the people that source that stuff, whether it's in the jungles or temperate forests or just the vendors themselves that are the go-between between the harvesting of the wood and then getting a chance to purchase that and acclimate it, and it doesn't stop with me. It doesn't stop with my kids. It goes to people like you and you that are going to play for other people. So I get to enjoy it, whether it's carving it or buffing it or whatever process I might be in. I really enjoy it. I'm totally engrossed in every phase of the building, designing the artwork, doing the physical work myself. But then I get to place it in the hands of somebody that maybe the only person that hears it. I mean, for a long time I've always said, you know, I don't know who my customers will be. Might be some 13-year-old girl sitting on the end of her bed playing for her cat, or it could be Jackson Brown. You know,
Right.
I don't know. I mean,
And it has been Jackson Brown.
well, yeah, but it's been that 13-year-old girl.
But it's also been the 13-year-old too. I know, exactly. And I was the 13-year-old boy who was lucky enough to do that way back when, also, Ren. So that's why I know this. I mean, I've grown up knowing you. Thank God, it's been such a.
But that music keeps going.
Yeah.
You know, so not only do I get blessed to bless the people that get me the materials, but I get to work it with my family. Then I get to put it in the hands of somebody that's going to take it to the next level and the next step.
And
Who could have a better job than that, ever?
You're absolutely right. But you mentioned working with your family, and something a lot of people might not know yet, even if they've heard your name, is that you've been teaching for a long time now your son Tim, who is brilliant in his own right, so that he can carry on the family name and the Ren Ferguson Company name, correct?
You know, I've been happy to have the privilege to work for Gibson for many years, for Fender, for Guild, for Shadow Guitar in China. I mean, I've had an incredible time and opportunity, but the best is to work with my kids, both Timothy and Virginia.
In Virginia, of course,
And
absolutely.
she's becoming a great luthier in her own right. I mean, never says no to learning.
Virginia was next on my list of topics, so to speak, you know, or persons, not topics. But since you brought her up also, how has it been working with them and teaching them as opposed to raising them when they were kids? Are you finding it's a similar process, like raising them in the business and as luthiers, or is it different now?
Well, they don't fight as much now.
You mean fight with you or fight with each other? Or
All
both?
of us.
That's fair.
No, Jenny is incredibly patient. She will listen intently, and when corrected, she's never challenged me or argued or anything. She just stops what I think might be improved by doing it in a different way and immediately tries to adopt it. Tim, I can't say any more about him. He is an animal. He just loves to work. He's exceptional. He inlay artist, like literally I could count all the people that are his caliber on one hand in the entire industry. And I'm so proud that he's taken off from where I have left. I still get to do the initial artwork, and I do all the carving and engraving and selecting the materials with the kids and putting that together, but he is an accomplished builder, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, all of these have the Ferguson DNA. They're, you know,
yeah.
they're all sort of our children, actually.
So, here's a question that I think I know the answer to because we were just talking about this at lunch, but how long does it take you to carve something like a couple of fish on the heel of a guitar, which you're going to see in this video, everybody? You're going to see all of the guitars that Ren has here, and you can also go on their website, and I'll put links for all their websites right in the description of this video. But how long does it take you, for instance, to carve something? Because like carving something on a heel where the neck meets the body, essentially, for anybody who doesn't know, that's an art form that you don't really see done a lot these days. And when you do see it, it's usually like some sort of like a, you know, a very like plain stock looking sort of thing that was almost like an afterthought.
Yeah.
From a design perspective, number one, how do you make that kind of a choice to include carvings like that on an instrument, and then how long does it take you? That one I know the answer to.
One of the things I don't do is keep a time card. So if I were to say it took me 40 hours, that might be true. You know, if I did 2 of them, it might take me 30 hours. Because part of the whole thing of that evolution is learning what fits and making it seem like it's actually part of the instrument rather than, like you say, bought and stuck on. You know, I wanted to have the texture and feel of the entire art form. You know, I might spend as much time practicing drawing it as I do in the execution.
Wow.
And I might spend as much, in some cases they're painted. You do a polychrome painting. The easiest thing to say is when we start with a block of wood is I get rid of everything that doesn't look like what I want. And that's oversimplification, but that's honestly the truth. I'm looking at the finished product all the time, and slice by slice, sliver by sliver, shave by shave, scrape by scrape, sand by sand. Every one of us is reducing it down to the appropriate amount that's left. So as far as it taking time, when I did Johnny Depp's guitar for Pirates of the Caribbean, man, that actually took about 3 weeks. But I didn't work 3 weeks straight on it. It was probably 3 months. And I would, you know, I can't just sit and do the same thing over and over and over. I do it until I'm ready to move on, or I have to go build a bridge for something else, or, you know, I just don't count it because it's part of the sum total. There's not an hourly wage for carving.
Right.
That I can see.
Sure, and I can appreciate that. You build and craft every single part of the instrument except like the hardware yourself, right?
Well, in some cases we'll make tuning buttons and stuff, but
you even make the hardware itself too sometimes, right in house.
Some of the hardware, yeah.
Some of the hardware, right in house.
Right.
So you're not like buying like finished fretboards or something like off like Stu Mac or something and then sticking it on a guitar. Like you're starting with raw materials like big pieces of wood, and you're cutting them down into smaller pieces of wood that make the instrument, right?
I do have a vendor that rough carves our braces for us.
The braces, okay.
And brings them down. I just don't have enough space for all the machinery, and I'm going to hand carve them anyways afterwards. So I got to buy the wood. It's not that much more to have them rough machined, and they put the correct radius on the bottom for me.
Oh, and so it gets the radius ready for you.
And create the perfect angle mechanically so that for whichever model I'm using, my X-brace has that correct notch. And then the carving on top of that is what Tim and I do. And when we're voicing a guitar, most of the stuff I would cut from a log if I had the space to do it. But I really have trusted vendors, and it's surprising how much material finds its way to me, and people know that even though they don't want to buy a guitar, but it might be a wood vendor, this piece is so rare, so special, that they want me to use it. And make it possible for me to have that opportunity.
Well, that's just amazing. Relationships are such a huge part of the music business, and the opposite is also true. The antithesis of relationships is like probably the most negative part that I've ever experienced. How important are those relationships that you're talking about? Relationships with vendors, relationships with customers and musicians, people that you work with and come into contact with. How important is that for you in the grand scheme of what you do?
Well, having an opportunity to actually employ people while at Gibson, we're talking hundreds over the nearly 30 years I was there, to share what I have gone through, to learn and distill that and deliver a recognizable training program for somebody to inspire them. That's why I do it, I guess. but all the way back to the people that are cutting wood for me. And the farther I can get in the jungle, the better. You know, I mean, I've been in the bowels of jungles, having meals on log tables with families, open air. You know, that have gone out and harvested something. All the way to people who saw my top wood and provided, you know, in a usable state. All I really need to do is glue it, rosette it, sand it, and then store it.
Wow.
Because I want to store everything a long time between each process.
Oh.
But our guitars, usually from the time that somebody requests one, usually take a year to a little bit more to receive it.
Wow.
And all that time it's going through the process of forgetting that it was a tree or a log, and now getting together so that when it's delivered, it has a chance to take that energy and learn how all those combinations will work together to produce not necessarily volume, but sweet sound.
Oh, wow, wow. Well, that's amazing. You know, I think we should probably cut it here. I could talk to you forever, and I pray I get the opportunity to keep talking to you forever, Ren. But people keep on coming over to the booth and trying to see the guitars, and we are literally sitting in front of the 4 guitars in the booth here. So I don't want to keep people away from the guitars anymore. That's not fair to everybody else. So
my wife keeps whipping them.
Exactly. So I'm going to sign off for now, Ren. Thank you so much for talking to people who love guitars like we do on my channel in John's Guitar Lounge. Well, it's a privilege to know you, Ren, and I'll be talking to you again soon. If you want to see more of Ren Ferguson's guitars and the guitars that he and his kids built together, check those out on his website, linked right here. And stay tuned to John's Guitar Lounge for more from the Dom Show. And if you want to hear more from Ren, hopefully I'll be blessed enough to be able to talk to him in the future again. And maybe we can do something after you get back to Montana on Skype or something, and do, you know, a longer interview when there isn't all this commotion going on too, hopefully. So
I look forward to it. John, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ren.
All right.
Take care, everybody.